Go.
Can you all see this lady over there? Statue of Liberty, official name, Liberty Enlightening the World. Now, Lady of Liberty over here, she's modeled after Libertas, the Roman goddess of freedom. As you can see, she has her chains on the bottom. So she's modeled after the Roman goddess of freedom, Libertas. As the statue, as the name indicates, she's enlightening the world, and you can't enlighten something without light. She's holding a torch. She also has a book of justice and laws with 1776 inscribed on it, of course, to commemorate the Declaration of Independence. And on her feet are broken shackles. She is now free. Of course, she represents freedom. Now, this statue was made by Gustave Eiffel, which you might know for a famous tower that happens to be in Paris, France, across the water. Now, the statue itself is an example of a curtain wall structure. As the name might imply, you have a curtain of outer material that rests on a skeleton. In this case, a 1/10 of an inch thick layer of copper surrounding the steel skeleton that she's made of. Now, you might notice this is green. For about 5 years, in about 5 years' time, over the first decade, this started off as a beautiful copper-colored statue, but it got gross. Exposed to the elements, it got brown and then black, and then eventually with all the water and rain and everything, it oxidized. And if you ever had a copper piece of a copper jewelry or anything, it turns green. Same thing happened here. This happened over a course of several years. Now, while this statue was actually dedicated in 1886, the idea came much earlier, 1846, when a politician in France declared that he stated that any monument dedicated to American independence, the American Revolution, should be a joint project between the United States and France. Because guess what? France helped, and then France had their own revolution. This whole little bromance going on between these two countries. Now, these people liked the idea. People jumped on board. 10 years later, a deal was struck. Here's the deal. France provides the statue, while the United States provides the pedestal and a place to put it. Perfect. Now, this was, of course, an early Kickstarter project. It was crowdfunded, and, naturally that took a little bit of time. Now, of course, France, they jumped the gun a bit. They made the head and the arm holding the torch way before this deal was even struck, and just to generate publicity. Now, in the United States, things were a little bit slower. Things were a little bit more difficult. People always have something to complain about, and they had 3 major complaints. First of all, this is soon after the Civil War. Styles changed. People weren't really into this whole allegorical figure type of thing. They wanted literal depictions. Maybe like a bloody soldier or someone holding a gun. Someone real, not a Roman goddess. Secondly, people were complaining, why should there be a French sculptor who makes this statue dedicated to American independence? It should be an American sculptor. That didn't fly well with people. And lastly, of course, why should we pay for it? Blah, blah, blah. People whined. Now, people were losing a little hope in this project, and a lot of other American cities started to step up to the plate. Philadelphia, Boston, they said, hey, we'll provide the money, we'll provide the place, let the statue be here. Now, Joseph Pulitzer and a bunch of others did not want to let this opportunity fly by. Joseph Pulitzer of the New York World, he made a fundraising campaign where he announced that he would publish the names of every single donor, no matter how big or small, in the newspaper, no matter what they give, as long as they gave something. This helped a lot. Another fundraiser, another person who helped, Emma Lazarus. In 1883, she wrote the famous poem, A New Colossus. You might recognize that line. Give me you're tired, you're poor, you're huddled masses, yearning to breathe free. This is on the pedestal right now. Now, she made this poem to inspire the people to donate, to help provide the funds for this project. Now, unfortunately, she never got to see the statue in the end. Her only opportunity was when she was sailing across this harbor to her home. She was struck with Hodgkin's disease. She could not leave her cabin. She died 2 months later, very early. Tragic. However, her poem is what rests on the pedestal now, honoring her as well as the American people, as well as the revolution, for what this statue is intended to symbolize, to commemorate. Now, if you look to the right of this if you look next to this, Statue of Liberty is on Liberty Island. Ellis Island is right there. That is where you had the official federal immigration depot after they took over from Castle Clinton over here. And over this time, you had millions of people passing through here, processed in this very building, becoming Americans, immigrating to this country. And it's estimated that 40% of Americans nowadays, modern Americans, have an ancestor who passed through these doors. Now, in this direction, you have Governor's Island, which ever since Dutch first landed, they first landed here, the first 8 colonists in the 1600s, it served as some sort of defense, some sort of useful defensive island for the government. In 2001, it was finally made a national monument, and in 2003, it was sold to the city of New York for $1. Now, if you guys ever heard of the Manhattan Purchase myth, this is a little bit better. This is especially modern day real estate. Now, finally, all the way to the left, you have Brooklyn, famous site of the Battle of Brooklyn, where George Washington, of course, led his troops to escape from a way overpowering force of the British. Through a huge storm that delayed him, and being the first X-Man, of course, he makes the fog rise up to cover his escape route, and he finally makes it, and he prevents he prevents a huge American defeat, and allows his troops to survive to fight another day, and allow for morale to be steady. George Washington. All right, let's go on now to the next slide. I can't really.